Hello everyone, welcome back to Retrothon 2024. I am Deshauna. I'm up early in the morning here and we're going to run some Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest Randomizer. It was originally scheduled to be a race, which is why it says that in the category, but that's just going to be me today. I know we're a little behind, so I'm going to go ahead and we're just going to get started and I'll explain how the game works as we go. So if you are at all familiar with Castlevania 2, this sprite might look a little bit different to you. This is normal, I promise. Leonardo was always in Castlevania. We are playing the randomizer, developed by Kay Laurie, an awesome community member who has put in a lot of work. This version of the game randomizes what enemies are where, what key items are in which spots, so all the mansions are going to have random items, and the goal is still the same. We're going to try and collect all of Dracula's body parts, bring him back to life, and defeat him again. Only everything's mixed up, so it's a brand new version of the game that's 40 years old. Not quite, but getting there. So to start out, what we're going to try and do is farm up some hearts so we can buy some items. I have the flags set so that the vendors in Jova are going to have some useful items for our randomizer. They're going to have an oak stake, which will let us grab an item from one of the mansions. They're going to have a whip upgrade, which will help us do some more damage. And they will have some laurels that will let us get through the swamp parts of the game that everybody loves. As you can see, if you're at all familiar with this game, this is not what the enemies should look like. We shouldn't be having mummies and harpies and late game enemies one screen away from the start of the game, but it actually helps us here in the randomizer because enemies will inherit the health of whatever zone you're in while maintaining what am I looking for here? The heart drops of their normal enemy types. So they're dropping big hearts for us while having much less health. Alright. And I died. No big deal. Mummies do a lot of damage, but we'll be alright. I've grabbed quite a bit of hearts here, so we're going to go back to Jova and do some shopping, if I can. Alright. And at nighttime, there are zombies in the villages. In the vanilla game, all of the merchants will disappear at night, and you can't go into the shops. The randomizer allows us to do both of those things. I was able to purchase a whip upgrade here, so now we're at Thorn Whip, so we'll be doing 2 damage a hit. Pretty big upgrade. Get a wood stake. The randomizer also changes the costs of the items. So normally an oak stake, like I just bought there, only costs 50, but it cost us 56. And that whip upgrade was 130 something. Normally about 125. Right. Let's see, this should be laurels. Okay. With that, we're all set to go exploring the overworld. What I'm going to do before that, though, is I'm going to farm up some zombies here. You could make an argument that this game is the first Metroidvania before Metroid and Castlevania had their big crossover. You've got exploration, backtracking, cryptic clues, leveling up, power progression. All the components are there. They just weren't baked very well by the baker, let's say. Localization issues, weird clues, NPCs that are giving you information that just outright lie. There was a lot of problems with this game on release. However, I've given it a second shot in the past few years, especially with the randomizer, and I found that it has become one of my favorite Castlevanias, and I highly encourage anyone who, of a certain age, someone close to mine who maybe played it as a kid, had no idea what was going on, bounced off of it, give it another try. There are some pretty awesome patches put out these days that will remove some of the more annoying parts. You might have noticed when it transitioned to nighttime, there was no what a horrible night to have a curse text box that took 5 minutes to go through. It just kind of swapped. The vendors and the text boxes actually move at a reasonable pace. All that can be done without randomizing the game and giving you the vanilla experience. There's been work put in to actually fix all of the translation errors and make sure that what the people are saying is accurate to the game. So yeah, I highly encourage you to check it out if you can. If you saw Simon just drop through the floor there, that is actually normal behavior. The game has a fun logic error where if you whip the frame after dropping off of a ledge and your subpixel is divisible by 8, then Simon will fall through the floor. And we, in the speedrun, use that all the time. And it's a very helpful technique when doing randomizer races, which is most of my experience with the randomizer. It's very fun. There's a fairly active randomizer race community. We do a yearly tournament in roughly December called the Simon Claus tournament, where we always set the Simon sprite to a Santa Claus sprite instead of a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, and build out a bracket and race each other. It's a lot of fun. I didn't do super well this past year. I got into the loser's bracket after the first round, but then I fought my way back to one round before the winner's bracket and lost to the same person, the world record holder of the speedrun, Freeland. No surprise there, I lost to him twice. Alright, I'll try and focus more on what I'm actually doing in the run here instead of rambling about how awesome this game is. This game is awesome, you should play it. I'm going to be heading now into the first mansion of the game and see what we can find there. I was able to get that wooden stake from Jova, so we'll be able to check what's in the orb. The vanilla game, they want you to grab the white crystal to see that invisible block I just jumped on, but it's just invisible. It's still there, so we don't do that. We'll just hop onto what seems to be thin air. There's a bunch of clues hidden throughout this game. In the vanilla game, they are often cryptic. The US localization, they're very, very unhelpful. The Japanese version, I guess they actually did give you hints and clues as to what you were supposed to be doing or where to go. In the randomizer, they'll actually give you clues as to which items are in which locations, and so you can know whether you have to go to a certain mansion to get a check, or whether you can skip, like fighting a certain boss, if you know that it has something that is of no use to you. But unfortunately, all of the clues in this mansion require either the nail to break blocks with your whip, or the holy water to break blocks, and we have not found that yet, either one of those. So a couple of things that you need in order to finish a randomizer are the holy water. It's not quite as overpowered as it is in Castlevania 1 in this game, but it does allow you to break blocks, which is required. And you essentially need to get to level 2, as that gives you a big boost to your max HP, as well as reducing all the damage that you take by half. So while it's not necessarily really required, the amount of quality of life it gives you getting level 2 is pretty important. So just another floor drop there. You can potentially do 2 to drop through all the way straight down here, but I messed up the timing for that a bit. So normally this mansion is best done when you have a block break, because there's 5 clues and can give you a lot of information about what's where, but you can at least use the stake, see where we're at. All I got was a stupid nail. Okay, so speaking of, the nail that we got from that orb is now going to let us do some more checks. We're going to see what clues this mansion is hiding. At least a couple of them that are easy to get to. So speaking of the Simon Claus tournament and tournament play of this game, I'm playing on a casual set of flags, so the overworld map is the same as the vanilla game. Oak Stake for sale in Alba. But normally the tournament flags shuffles which mansions and which towns are where, So you don't actually know where anything is until you get there, and that makes things quite a bit more complicated. This hopefully won't take as long as a tournament seed, because I actually know what towns and mansions are where and what to prepare before we get there. So we're gonna make our way out of this mansion, and with our thorn, or our nail, we can go ahead and find one more check in the town underneath this mansion. Also, side note, the music in this game is fantastic. I love it. It gave us the evergreen staple in Castlevania, Bloody Tears, that we hear now. There's a limited set of songs in this game, but all of them are amazing. Slowly making our way and dying, apparently. One nice thing that the randomizer does in the vanilla game, if you get a game over, you will lose all of your hearts and all of your experience that you've earned. Yet another misstep in game design, let's call it, that led to this game not reaching nearly the popularity it should have. The randomizer instead will take half of your hearts and half of your experience, making taking game overs quite a bit less punishing. Am I misremembering though? I think I am misremembering. I think this actually requires holy water. Yeah, it does. Okay. Quick mental calculations here. We can get the one on the left side of the map. Yeah, that one requires holy water. The floor breaks on the bottom, which holy water you throw at an angle and it can hit things below you and in front of you. The nail can only open things like this horizontally. We have a magic cross, so that is one of the required items. You need to get Dracula's rib, heart, eye, nail, his ring, and the cross in order to bring him back and defeat him. So that's one item we needed. That is good. So you can step into churches here, talk to the priest, he'll let you rest for a while, and that will heal you to full. Takes a little bit of time, but can be the deciding factor in a race often. As I said, you lose half hearts and half experience on a game over, and that can be pretty punishing. So sometimes it's worth the extra couple of seconds to go into the church and heal up. I was able to find in the merchant, in the first mansion there, garlic. So what garlic does, you drop it on the ground, and enemies who run into it will take continuous damage and be stun locked. But there's also 2 graveyards in the game where dropping garlic reveals a hidden NPC that will offer you an item. One of the clues that I've mentioned in the vanilla game, in the English localization, just simply says graveyard to duck, which is not a helpful clue. It does not mean anything. But the randomizer has taken this bit of a what's become a meme and actually turned it into a real thing, and one of those graveyard NPC checks in the randomizer is now a literal duck, and I'm going to the graveyard that doesn't have that duck at the moment, but we'll see if we get to it. It's pretty fun. All these spiders are one of the worst enemies to roll in any room. They can block your progress on stairs, they're constantly throwing projectiles, which slows the game down because the NES couldn't handle too many sprites at once. And they're everywhere in this seed. So down there, we need the blue crystal, so we're not going to head there. We're going to head out to the town. We picked up the chain whip, which gives us quite a bit of extra damage. Instead of 1 damage per hit, like we would with the leather whip, the chain whip offers us 4 per hit. A pretty significant boost in offense. In the randomizer community, it's joked about that in order to play the video game, you must get chain whip and level 2. So we're halfway there. We're level 1 and we've got the chain whip. We'll see about getting that second level if we find a room with a decent enemy set. Here is our first graveyard with an NPC. Drop the garlic and he shows up. What do we got? Sacred Flame. Sacred Flame is an interesting sub-weapon. It doesn't, in the normal game, do a whole lot of good. It can stun lock enemies pretty well, but its damage value is equal to half of your whip damage. So with a chain whip doing 4, Sacred Flame would do 2 damage per hit. I've set a flag for the randomizer that was recently implemented where sub-weapons deal, instead of half your whip damage, double your whip damage. So the Sacred Flame is actually going to be quite useful to us. Now it's going to do Morningstar damage per hit. See, it kills that zombie in 1 hit. That's a fun one. I haven't played around with it too much. It's called the Improved Sub-Weapons patch. And it's quite fun. Okay, so what have I got to do here? 1 second, I'm trying to do some math. Alright, so I need to go back to the other side of the map. The randomizer has implemented this cool feature. A lot of randomizers do to prevent soft locks. A way to teleport around. Essentially, up A from the Zelda games, you can teleport yourself back to the beginning of the game by pressing select and then up and A at the same time. So we're going to go all the way back to Jova. And we're going to buy another oak stake. And then we're going to head to the left side of the map. I did get a crystal. We got the white crystal. That's allowing you to proceed in the first mansion, which we've already cleared. We need the blue crystal to do any more checks on the right side of the map. So we're going to head through one of the swamps that we grabbed some laurels for. And see what we can do. So this room here in the vanilla game has got a couple of lizard men, and is very important for you to learn their patterns for the speedrun, as grinding up the hearts to get a decent level and a decent whip early game basically requires killing those guys over and over and over until it turns to night. But the timing on their fireballs can be a bit of a trouble to learn. Alright, there we go. That's level 2. Now we can play the video game. I'm going to talk to the ferryman, who became a staple later in the series. If you're familiar with Symphony of the Night, you'll recognize this guy. He takes us one location, and if we get to the heart of Dracula, we can then ride him to another location that has some more checks to do. So, see if we get to do that. Sometimes the logic dictates that doesn't actually happen. We can do one more check behind nail here. What do you have for us? Blue crystal. Okay, that's good. We'll be able to go and check the second mansion location with that. But before we do that, there's a bit more we can do on this side of the map. We're going to go check out that graveyard duck I was talking about. See what we have to find. This is a later part of the game. It's got more difficult enemies, typically, with the enemy randomizer going on. We don't know what we'll see, but their HP values, like I said, is going to be the same, so we're lucky we've got Chain Whip. There's a bunch of invisible floors. You just saw me fall through one because I mistimed my jump. throughout this game that can be real pain if you're not sure where they're at. And they seem to be designed to be as aggravating as possible. Take another death, not too bad. These blobs are annoying. The blobs are here in the vanilla game and are used in probably the most infamous trick in the speedrun, the blob boost. As you see, as coming up here on the left side, there's a very tall block here that we can't reach with very precise timing and getting hit by a blob while doing a whip jump that gives you a slightly higher jump height. You can actually get on top of there. And the game hasn't accounted for you doing that, and it will teleport you to a location you aren't supposed to get to. So here's our friend Graveyard Duck. Look at him in all his sunglasses glory. And he gave me the heart I was just talking about. We're going to use that to get to another spot with another mansion. Awesome. That is progression. We both need it to get to the end of the game and to check out another mansion. Another question I have. Oops. Looking at my map that I've printed out. Apologies. Okay, so now we're at night. The whip jump. Avoid those hidden pits. We're gonna keep on heading to the left, see what greets us in the town. If nothing, then we'll probably do a warp back and take the ferry ride with the heart, as that leads to another free check. There's a merchant in the mountains who will just give us an item. Doesn't even require hearts. If you're familiar with, you know, Castlevania in general, hearts as a currency for your sub-weapons, pretty normal. In this game, they are both currency for sub-weapons as well as currency for shops. So they serve a bit of a double purpose. Now we reach the town of Ondal, which has laurels for sale. I'm full up on those, don't need those. And then there's one more check we can do where there's normally, I believe, a Morning Star Whip. Zombies are tough. There's a hole in the floor. That's bad architecture right there. Somebody's gonna get themselves hurt. Alright, merchant, what do you have for us? Something useful? An oak stake. Useful, but not required for us right now. We already have one. Set up a floor drop here to get out of this town a little bit faster, or we're going to fail at it. So this is a frame precise trick. It needs to be the first frame after Simon's feet leaves the block. You do a whip, and then he'll drop down. There are a couple of ways, especially once you get holy water, that you can set it up easier than doing the jumping back and forth off the block, but we don't have that yet. As I said, it is related to Simon's subpixel, which there's a range of 0 to 255, and it needs to be divisible by 8. So we do a bunch of setups to make sure that our subpixels are correct. That jumping left, right, left is an easy way to do so. You saw me grabbing the stairs before I did it. That actually sets Simon's subpixel to 0 if you ever touch stairs. So that's anytime there's steps around, it makes doing the setup for a floor drop a lot easier. We're going to skip by that mention for now, and we're going to head into the mountains for that free check I was talking about. Over the floating blocks, which once you see that they're on the left side, that's little the Doge mouth, and he's got little eyes on the top, you're never going to unsee it. At least I never have. Alright, this is an unfortunate NPC placement. Thank you, Randomizer. I do love the, if you take the TMNT sprites the randomizer has, when they die, they turn into just a normal little turtle on the ground instead of Simon's dead body. Pretty funny. Alright, what do you have? You've got a diamond. The most useless item. Like I said, I have the better sub-weapons patch on, so this is actually kind of useful. But the diamond is one of those, in the vanilla game, does half your whip damage in damage, and has a strange bouncing property. It's very hard to aim and actually hit things with. It's not a useful item. But here it does at least a little bit of damage, so maybe we'll get some use out of it. And head into the third mansion once we get past the Doge blocks. See what we can find in here. So this is the mansion that the boss is Death. Always found it kind of fun that one of Dracula's employees is Death itself. Kind of tracks with him being a vampire lord, I guess. It's one of those few games where there's no clock tower for Death to live in. Instead, we get a random mansion out in the mountains. There's bats on the stairs. Yeah, this enemy placement for the seed is actually kind of trolly. We just got lucky getting the chain whip so early we can actually deal with it. You get bats and spiders on staircases. Anytime Simon takes damage on the stairs, he gets knocked off of them. Sometimes you can take advantage of this and get off a staircase that you're wanting to leave a little bit early. Sometimes it's extremely frustrating when you're just trying to walk up them and things just keep hitting you. Dogs have some beefy HP, at least 12. So there is a vendor in the next room that we're going to see what they sell. If it's anything useful, we'll pick it up. And if not, we will head on into Death's fight. What have you got? He's got the ring. That's a required item. That's one of the 5 relics we require to beat the game. There's a fun floor drop setup you can do that will drop you, instead of walking down these stairs that I'm doing like I am, straight into Death's room. It requires a very particular setup, and then a 3-frame window jump. And if you don't get the 3-frame window jump, you can either die or have to basically do the whole sequence anyway. So we're just gonna take it the old-fashioned walking down the steps way. And we'll use our Sacred Flame to stun lock Death and see what he holds. Normally it's the golden knife. Instead, it is our red crystal. One more required item. The red crystal both enables us to ride a tornado off of a cliff, as well as it's one of the required items to get into Castlevania to beat Dracula. So we are pretty close now. We require a couple more of the relics, and then we'll be in go mode. We're going to head to the right side of the map, check out the second dungeon that you unlock using the blue crystal, which should, in our journey, hopefully contain all the stuff that we need. And across the Bridge of Despair, as I like to call it. And then go deep into the depths of Transylvania. The firemen on the bridge, it's one of the more frustrating enemy types that could have rolled here. Since they throw the fireballs, they make the platform above them not really safe to stand in, and the speed at which they move makes it hard to drop on as well. We're taking some deaths. That's fine. All good. We've got quite a trek ahead of us to get to our favorite mansion, Rover. Oh, it's been long enough. Yeah, nobody even with our time zone should be. The Wordle yesterday, if anybody's still playing Wordle, I am. The Wordle yesterday was the word Rover, and I'd been practicing this game for this event, and Rover is one of the mansions, and I didn't get it. I lost my streak on the word Rover, and I felt very ashamed and frustrated. Very strange anecdote, but yeah, that happened. Most of my friends who I play Wordle and share our results with got it pretty late because it's not a very well used word, but yeah, I felt a little shame there. Like I've been saying Rover Mansion to myself for days. C'est la vie. Making our way. Going to take another staircase that we skipped. I mentioned we needed the blue crystal for, but we didn't have it when we were here last. Horrible night to have a curse. So that's the stairs we want to take. Try and do this floor drop setup just because I think it's kind of fun. One more try. There we go. Fall through the floor. It's not actually worth it most of the time when the staircase goes to the right, unless you get it basically perfect. And on the first try, you're not saving time since Simon is still moving to the right. That's the direction you want to go. But when you're on a staircase that's going the opposite direction of where you want to go, those floor drops are invaluable. Try to do a neat little trick there where you can maintain these moving blocks momentum by doing a jump there. I sort of got it there. But it ended up killing me the first time, so maybe not worth it. This is one of those arcane, obscure bits of the game. You needed to have the blue crystal equipped and then duck down for a certain amount of time, and then the lake allows you to pass. The English localization did not explain this well. I actually learned about that mechanic after having played the game and not knowing what I was doing from a tie-in novel that Nintendo did back in the 80s. Nintendo Worlds, and one of them was Castlevania 2, and that novel explained what this game was far better than the game itself does, and that's kind of funny to me. There's a vendor here. We're going to check, see what he has for us. No cash, just hearts. Holy water. Thank you. That is very useful. That allows us to get into Castlevania. It allows us to check hidden floors that are underneath us. Big find for the randomizer. There's a fun glitch with that purple moving block that was just below us, where you can glitch yourself into the 5th mansion while inside the 2nd mansion that we're in, and then skip a large chunk of this climbing section I'm doing here. It can go wrong, so I'm not doing it. We're just playing everything marathon safe. Go through it the way that we do. Not a race, not in any hurry. I am trying to go faster so we can get the marathon a little bit less behind, but well, I don't need to lose time trying to save time, if that makes sense. Laurels are for sale in Ondel. I already knew that. That's another community staple, as clues that you find are going to invariably be something you already know. Always. What do you have in our orb? Got an oak steak. Oak steak begets oak steak. Very nice. Let's see here. Guess it might be worth just exiting mansion. I didn't do the floor drop setup because I was anticipating warping out of here. But then I got holy water, and I actually want to check what's at the town outside of here. See if I can just randomly get the floor drop. It's possible. No. Alright, we'll go the slow way. Yeah, there was a few novels of these old NES games that, like, pardon my modern terminology, they were essentially like isekai novels where like a random kid from our world would get trapped in the worlds of these video games and need to, you know, help the hero out. For, you know, little 8-9-year-old me, they were wonderful. I still have my Simon's Quest books somewhere deep in my stuff. I wouldn't call them very good literature, you know, by an objective standard, but it was a fun little tie-in. And in the case of this game, actually made me understand what the heck was going on far better than the game itself ever did. Just saying something. I kind of mentioned it in passing. There is a small, very minor glitch in this game where if you whip while ascending during a jump, you'll actually gain an extra pixel of height that allows you to make some jumps you otherwise couldn't. It's pretty minor, but it allowed me to get up that lake climb slightly faster, slightly more efficient than I would otherwise. It is banned in the no glitches category. Just because it gives that slight advantage if you use it otherwise. But in, you know, like a randomizer race or, you know, a glitchless game, it's used all the time. But you see me whipping while I jump most of the time. Swap over to our holy water. To the right. A whole lot of the game opened up for us when we got that holy water. Whip upgrade, sure, we'll buy that. Now we got the Morning Star, so we're doing 8 damage per hit. That's a big get, we like that. Just trying to think through what I've got here. We've got one more check in here. Let's see what we get in this vendor spot. There's another hidden floor over here. That's a little bit faster than taking the stairs. Rib, we need that. That is required. So at this point, we are only missing. We've got rib, heart, nail, ring, and cross. So we are missing only the eyeball. All right. So hopefully we find that sooner than later. We're back to Jova. to myself. Yeah, we've got everything on the right side of the map. We're gonna head left. These enemies are tough. I guess nighttime's doubling their HP, but I mentioned laurels are useful for getting across these swamps, and I've yet to actually use them, so I guess I'll demonstrate it now just cause. Turns you invincible for a few seconds, so you can just walk through the swamp without the slowdown, without taking damage. Make sure I don't have the heart equipped, okay. All of the enemies in the game are randomized except for the ones here in the river. With the casual flag set, the river enemies stay the same because it can be extremely frustrating when they're randomized into like mummies or the flowers that shoot fireballs at you. Usually you can use laurels and such to get around them, but for this showing, I just set up the lazy river flag, as it's called, to make sure that they are the vanilla enemies and make it a lot easier to get through the river. You just stand there. The merman won't touch you. Heal up, and we'll do the check in here. And that requires holy water. What do you have, merchant man? Oak steak. I don't need that. I already had one from Oak Steak, beginning Oak Steak in Brahm's Mansion. That's okay. Good to know, though. We'll try and do a floor drop setup that I'm aware of. We're going to jump out of here. All the way to the left side. Jump up. Neutral jump. Frame perfect whip. And we fall through. Can do another setup to drop through there, but not necessarily worth it. Alright, and we're heading to the far left side of the map. To a place in the mountains where, with the red crystal equipped, we can find a spot on the mountain to duck for a few seconds and then be transported across the map by a magic tornado. Where is this communicated in game? Well, in the English translation, it's not. You just kind of had to figure that out. Very normal stuff. Let's see here. This is the town of Ondal, and we already got both of our checks here. Let's just move on. Make it into the mountains. Yes, we will. Jumping skeletons cannot stop us. We have a whip. A Morning Star whip. These blocks have a fun little momentum. If you jump off of them while they are traveling downwards, you do not move very far at all. If you jump off of them while they are moving upwards, they send you very high into the sky. So if you don't time your jumps right, you're going in the drink. Here's Mansion 4. Bodley Mansion. There's a couple of checks in here. Just for marathon safety, because it could, we only have one item left to go mode. There's a merchant at a very obscure spot that might hold what we need, so we're going to go the long way around and see what he's got. There are hidden blocks galore in this mansion. Wolves attacking us. One fun thing, there's, in the vanilla game, a set of boulders, skip over those invisible spots, up top here that can deal a bunch of damage to you. In the randomizer, they turn into random enemies if you have the enemizer on, and as they retain HP from whatever the enemy was, they all have 1 HP because you can kill those boulders with 1 hit. yet they'll drop their normal 5 to 10 hearts as a mansion. And so this can actually be a really good spot in a randomizer race to level up or resupply on your hearts if needed. I'm taking a lot of extra damage and not getting a ton of hearts, so maybe not worth it. We'll move on. The shop here can be kind of pricey, so I was hoping to grab a little bit of extra money. That should be good. As you see the game chug with all these sprites on the screen. More sprites means more slowdown. It's honestly impressive they got this game to work at all. How much it's got going on. There's a cool trick the world record holder Freeland likes to do here. There's a double wraparound floor drop. You drop through 2 floors, fall in a hole, and then that hole wraps you back to the top of the screen and then lets you drop again. So you can skip all of what I'm doing here and just drop straight into the merchant. Requires a couple of frame perfect inputs. We're just going to do the normal. Like I said, marathon safety. We're not going for any fancy strats. We're just showing off the game. Laurels. Well, this wasn't worth it, but it might have been. Let's see what is in our orb at the end here. If it is the eyeball, we are clear for go mode. If it is not, we're going to have to check out Laruba Mansion, the final mansion of the game. It is a dagger. Right. Dagger, pretty good sub weapon. Does 2 damage per hit. Base flat. Which is more than your starting weapon, so if you find it early, it can be quite useful. It has a fun property that is shared with all the sub-weapons. If it deals damage to an enemy on the last frame that the item's sprite exists, it will deal 255 damage instead, which is pretty neat. It can be used to kill Dracula at the end of the game in 2 hits. Otherwise, you know, having a little bit of range on your attack is nice. The dagger is not the most optimal sub-weapon. That isn't what we wanted to see. We're hoping that there is an oak stake in Laruba Mansion, or that the orb doesn't hold the eyeball. We're going to take a little bit of a gamble here. Hopefully it pays off. There are 3 other checks in Laruba. So we're playing the odds a little bit here. There's always the chance that the one item that we need is in the one thing that we can't check at the moment. But we're going to hope that's not the case. This is a sacred, the Flame Whip Merchant. What do you have? You have a silver knife. That is the worst sub-weapon in the game, and it's not even a question. At least the golden knife does some stun lock. The silver knife has piercing properties, so it'll only hit an enemy once. And as with most of the sub-weapons in the vanilla game, only does half your whip damage. Not great. That's okay. We are checking other spots. All good. There should be a clue here. Maybe it'll helpful. Guards a crystal. Yeah, we already knew that. Thanks, game. I'm telling you. Still go for it most of the time. Beefy flower. So here's a very long swamp for us to reverse, so we will be using some laurels here. That one's not the long part. Oh, bad luck. Okay. I should have just damage boosted through the first swamp, because we're not going to have any laurels to come back unless there's some for sale in Laruba, which is possible. Here's the 5th and final mansion of the game. Laruba has the enemies with the most HP. It's quite dense with enemies. Has the 2nd hardest boss in the game. It's a bit of a nightmare. It's a cool color scheme though. Give it that. Since we just game over, we're down to 99 hearts. Might not be enough to buy what's in the merchant shops. We'll kill some stuff, get some hearts as we go. We're tantalizingly close to go mode, and yet we need one item. I don't know where it is, so hopefully it's here. There's one more check, one more town that we can get a check in that's free, but it's very deep into the late game, and often holds nothing of consequence, so we don't tend to like checking it unless it's the last resort. And our eyeball might be there. Come up to here, there's a merchant to check. So a mudman throwing fireballs at us. A lot of HP. What have you got? You have got the golden knife. We'll go ahead and buy that. It is the best weapon to use against the boss in this mansion, Carmilla. We're gonna drop on down. There's a merchant down here who in the vanilla game offers you laurels for free. What does he have for us? He has the flame whip. So that allows us to do so the leather whip you start with does 1, thorn whip does 2, chain whip does 4, and then the morning star does 8. So if you guess how much damage does the fire whip do, you would rightly probably guess 16. Nope, 15. I don't know why. There's a 15 damage. Yes, yeah, we got the eyeball from Carmilla. We did not need the oak stake. We are in go mode. Let's go kill Dracula. So gold knife is fun. It does use hearts in order to throw it, like you would expect a Castlevania sub-weapon to do. Whereas most of the ones in this game actually don't require hearts. Kind of fun. Gold knife does. But it does damage equal to your whip damage, and it hits 3 times, and it stun locks enemies. It is the only weapon in the game, aside from the whip, that damages that boss we just fought, Carmilla. So, quite a useful item. It can also be used to stun lock Dracula, which is probably how we'll end up killing him. Just because it's the safest, most reliable method, especially with Flame Whip. Double check. We got the rib, we got the heart, we got the eye, we got the nail, we got the ring, we got the cross. We are in go mode, because we also have the red crystal, obviously, because we got to this part of the map without doing any glitches. So we are on our way. Hopefully that means we're going to be pretty well under estimate, get a little bit of time back for the marathon. But we do have to trek all the way back through this swamp with no laurels, which might be a problem. It might actually be faster just to take, yeah, it's going to be faster. I'm going to take the death here. We're going to warp all the way back to Jova. And we're going to ride that tornado again to get back to the right side of the end side of the map without having to go through that swamp. With no laurels, that's going to be much more difficult, possibly not even possible since we didn't get to level 3. Takes a little bit of time, but I do believe this is actually going to be faster in the end. Sure, I'll take you to a good place. Oh, you sound very trustworthy, Ferryman. I mentally map the voice from Symphony of the Night, Ferryman, onto that guy now. I just can't help it. Oh yeah, Laruba Mansion. That's Lagruba Mansion, as we like to call it. They just put a billion sprites on the screen. Well, there's our level 3. That would have been useful to damage boost with the swamp, but here we are. At least we get some bloody tears to listen to. I'd say 99% of the time when I play this game, I'm humming or singing along to the music with some random nonsense lyrics that I've made up. I will spare you that pain as best I can. I know I'm a bit tone deaf. The music's just so good. Bloody Tears is an all-time great song. Make sure we got the crystal equipped. We're good. We'll ride this very normal and absolutely not arcane knowledge. Everybody knows riding tornadoes. We'll make our way on to Castlevania, the home of Dracula's spirit, but none of his body. We will bring his body back to him. Very smart plan, Simon. Or Leonardo, whichever. So this is the town of Doina. Inside that last door there is an NPC with a check. There's a bit of a meme amongst a few of the randomizer runners that the final check you need for the game is always in Doina because it's the last place you'll ever check, because it is right before the end of the game. Sometimes that does happen in the seed logic, and it is always painful. I was a little bit afraid that that was going to happen this time, right up until we got the eyeball. One more floor drop if our subpixel's right. It's not, we'll just walk down. Sure, we've got holy water equipped. Actually, I don't want holy water, I want nail, and then we'll swap to holy. This is the town of Yomi. My headcanon, and I think is somewhat backed up by narrative, it's black and white because it is so close to Dracula in his castle that he's drained all of the life from the surrounding area. Everything gets more, black and white, less saturated as you get close to his castle. The evil is infecting the land. And in the town of Yomi, all of the NPCs seem to hate Simon. They're so mad at him for going on this quest and for vanquishing Dracula in the first place. It's pretty funny. In the randomizer, if you get through the game fast enough, the ending talks about how Simon goes on his Yomi PR tour because he needs to rehabilitate his image in that village. They don't like him there. We're crossing the final bridge into Castlevania, the lair of Count Dracula. There is a possibility to do 3 floor drops in a row and drop through this entire maze of a level and take only a few seconds to get through it. The setup is not easy. I have very little success with it, so we are not even going to attempt it. But what you would do is drop down here and then do a floor drop, which will drop you through this 2-block floor I'm walking on, this 1-block floor I'm walking on, this 1-block floor I'm walking on, and right into Dracula's fight. Instead, we're going to go through a bit of a maze of blocks and try to attempt one single floor drop to save a little bit of time. And we got it first try, nice. It saves us a pretty long staircase walking the opposite direction of where we want to go. And here is Dracula. Our final fight, we're going to throw all of his body parts, his cross, his ring, and bring him back to life. And then we shall defeat him once again, spread his ashes to the 4 winds, and he'll never be a problem again, right? That is time. Alright. A little bit over an hour. Getting a sub-hour time in one of these seeds is considered quite good, so we almost hitting there. Not bad at all, and well under estimate. So hopefully we have a little bit of time for the marathon. Yeah, that's Castlevania 2 Randomizer. This flag set is pretty easy compared to what a competitive race environment would be like, but we didn't actually end up doing the race for this event, so I wanted to just show off a little bit of an easier thing since we weren't going to be doing anything competitive. Yeah, that's me. I will be running the game Bobble up next, so you get a little bit more of me. That's a much shorter game. We're not going to be here for too much longer. Thanks for watching, and hopefully you guys enjoy a little bit of Bubble Metroidvania action.